Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you the strategy that we use to scale an Aussie brand's email marketing from 81K up to 320K per month. So let's get straight into it. In this video, we're going to be covering, of course, the results, the new pop-up that we created that tripled their conversion rate up to 15%, how we revamped and extended their flow automations to maximize their revenue, and of course, the campaign strategy we implemented that brought in 312K over this 5-month period that we'll be looking at. So of course, this was them before working with us. They were working with a bit of a low-skilled freelancer, a bit of like a one-man show that handled some of their campaigns and the flows and everything. But obviously with freelancers, they can become a bit unreliable, usually because they're working with too many clients. And email marketing, go to write all the copy, design, schedule an email, plan out the content calendar. And of course, that's a lot to put on one person, especially if they're working with quite a few other people just to make a living. So in this particular case, they actually became really unresponsive over the holiday period. And yeah, just downright unreliable. So that's where they turned to us, this brand turned to us. But before us as well, they also had another agency build out their flow automations as like a one-time project about 1.5 years ago, which looked good on paper. But when I had a look at them, I actually found out they were really short and there wasn't much like value-based messaging to actually nurture people into a purchase. And lastly, the main thing that was keeping them back and holding back their revenue was they had a really basic Klaviyo pop-up. It kind of ruined the website's aesthetic and was only converting a very small amount of people, like only like 4% of like website visitors. So yeah, this is the chart back in February. And if we go on to our results, this is over April. So this was over the Easter sale, if I recall. But yeah, we're up at 33% email attributed revenue and up at 325K for that month just from the email marketing channel. Now we can zoom out here and look at the last 12 months. So again, we started working with them about mid-March. This is their huge Easter sale. And this is some non-sale periods continuing working with us, and this is their big Father's Day sale. So we actually went up to 334K and outperformed their Black Friday sales for Father's Day. But yeah, what's more interesting is when we look at the non-sale periods, January to March and then May to July, we actually pretty much doubled the email revenue once this brand started working with us. Here is also the list growth. We also added 35,000 new email subscribers in that list in that 5-month period. So if you don't know me, my name's Kieran. I've generated over $12 million from e-commerce email marketing, working with some of the top 7-8 figure brands. If you want to find out more about me, of course, I've got an Instagram page and a YouTube channel right here. So let's keep going. So a bit more of a background about the brand. So they're sending a bit inconsistent campaigns during the week, really relying heavily on sale-focused campaigns with very little value-based content to nurture the subscribers. Being right after January, February, they just finished up with Black Friday summer sales here in Australia, and yeah, they were stressing out a little bit. They were well below the revenue targets for the month, and this was mainly due, or one of the reasons I guess was because that freelancer that just weren't keeping up. And I think they went on holiday themselves, and they were just unresponsive. This brand had a AOV around $200, $300. Mostly relying on product bundles. And yeah, they have a really good Instagram organic and paid online presence. Even selling some of their products in like retail stores like BCF. And yeah, when we came on with them, they had a very big email list of 100,000 recipients. However, this was very bloated because there was quite a few inactive contacts that we had to suppress and reduce their Klaviyo bill. So how did we do it? This is what you're all here for. So firstly, going over the 3 core pillars. One of them is the pop-up. So this brand wanted to maximize opt-ins, so we actually used an external tool called OptiMonk. Another good alternative is Alia as well. But OptiMonk, we chose OptiMonk because it's slightly cheaper, or at least it was when we looked at it. And this creates a much more aesthetic, nicer looking pop-up essentially. Better UI, more customization options, more fluid pop-up animation. So they were originally, converting people around 4% or 3.6% on Klaviyo. And if we look at the results, this is them back in Klaviyo before us, and this is our new one over all time. So 15% was the average conversion rate that we saw. And yeah, that was quite a lot of opt-ins. So, why is this important? Because I always harp on about the pop-up, but it's actually one of the most important parts of your email marketing system. Well, if we can quadruple, which is pretty much what we did, we pretty much quadrupled their list growth rate. That means we're quadrupling the amount of people entering into their flow automations, which effectively quadruples their flow revenue, or at least increases the flow revenue quite a lot. I mean, if you think about it, if you just simply put more more recipients into one flow, it's going to spit out more money, right? So, and of course, email campaigns that we're sending each week. If we have a bigger email list to send to, we're going to get more buyers. It's as simple as that. So tweaking a pop-up is really, really important. So, what is some of the principles and what kind of design structure did we implement here? So, first one is a two-step micro commitment. So the very first step of your pop-up should look something like this. So where it really just has a yes, no button, and you just ask them like, want 10% off or want a mystery discount. And of course you want the button nice and appealing. You want people, to make the obvious choice and say, yes, of course I want a discount. So they'll click that button. And the theory is that once they click that yes button, they have micro committed to completing the rest of the pop-up. So more people overall, because the next step is where you ask for their email address. There's a really good example right here. You say, want a mystery discount? Yes, please. And then you say, where should we send the code? And that's when you ask for the email. This works insanely well right now. And this is the main thing that got us to that 15% conversion rate. So I highly, highly recommend implementing this right now, if not already. Second thing is, make sure your pop-up is looking really good on mobile and desktop. For most D2C stores, like a lot of their traffic comes through their mobile device. And, both types of users, mobile and desktop, behave differently, meaning you actually want to have some different firing times for each device. So if you're on Klaviyo, you'll have to split these up and actually duplicate the pop-up and have two separate pop-ups just so you can test each individually. So yeah, that's really important. Make sure the mobile one is looking really good because again, that's probably likely where most of your traffic is coming from. Third is having a teaser on the desktop version. So I say desktop because mobile devices, their screens are a bit smaller, and usually this teaser just obstructs people from actually clicking the add to cart button or checkout button. So it actually can affect your conversion rate. So yeah, wouldn't recommend on mobile, but desktop, obviously much bigger screen. I would highly recommend adding that in because it always increases conversions. 4 core principle into creating a high converting pop-up is simply just test. A/B test different offers. Mystery discount messaging, like want a mystery discount, has been working insanely well, especially if you can't give away something that sounds really strong. 10% off is becoming really basic, these days. So mixing up a little bit, saying want a mystery discount is definitely good, especially because, with a mystery discount, this opts people in before you reveal their discount to them. So that's just a bit of a smart move, but you can also, try other things like free gift with purchase, giveaways, get an X dollar amount over minimum spend of Y, buy X, get Y. Lots of different offers. You don't need to do the basic 10% off or anything else. And so 5th principle is, new A/B test every week. So again, list growth, we've gone over why list growth is so important. So highly recommend just A/B testing this. Make sure you're maximizing this conversion rate and getting as many people off the website into your email list for the long term. A/B test things like copy on headers, CTA buttons, subtext, the graphics and imagery, the firing time of when the pop-up actually shows up, the format, full screen, spin wheel, would it slideshow out the side of the screen, things like that. Here's a good few pop-up examples from some big brands, obviously Dr. Squatch. The main things you want to do is have it nice and clear with the offer being the main title, nice, clear, contrasting colored buttons. Again, you can see here the 10% off is kind of like the first thing that catches your eye. That's kind of how you want to think about it. Same with this. The only thing I would change here is not having the first name option, because Klaviyo can actually grab the first name of customers. They can do that without actually having to get people to opt in the first name, usually through checkout or other means. And changing the continue button to something like claim discount. Because if you say continue, then people kind of know you may potentially ask them for more on the next step. Because after this step, you could be asking them for SMS. So I always recommend just changing the CTA button to claim discount or claim 10% off or take 10% off, something like that. Cool. So onto the flow automations. What did we do for this brand for the flow automations for it to perform so well? Well, just as a basic KPI to think about is that flow automations on average make up around 20% of your total store revenue. So this e-commerce store, we came in, like I said, the previous agency has already built them out for them. However, the designs and copy were now kind of outdated. This is a very fast moving e-commerce brand. So things were getting updated. We actually started using a bit more AI imagery and stuff and lifted up a lot of things. So yeah, we needed to pretty much revamp these flow automations. It was over complex, and when I actually looked into it more in depth, because this was like an award-winning agency that set them up, and it had very complex flow filters, segmentation, things like that. But overall, they were actually very short. Like the email flows were actually very short, especially for a brand of this size that was pulling in the traffic and numbers that it did. The flows were just very, very short. This actually does more bad than good, because the main thing that matters, especially in like abandoned cart, abandoned browse flows, is simply reminding the customer enough and increasing the touch points to actually get them to convert into a sale. There's nothing wrong with following up with people more just to remind them about their purchase. So this is the core flows: welcome flow, browse abandonment, abandoned checkout, abandoned cart, post-purchase, and customer win-back. These are always going to be your highest revenue generating flows. So this is the ones that we focus on first in the first 2 months of working together. And as you can see, the results, this is when we started working together around March, had the big Easter sale. And then, yeah, the more important thing is, the non-sale periods. You can see here, non-sale period and non-sale period here after May. Again, essentially like pretty much doubling the email flow revenue. So what did we do? So like I said, we wanted to get all these flows up to best industry practice and extend these core flows to be at least 6 to 10 emails in length. I think before they were around like 2 to 3 emails, but again, this is a big store. They really were missing out on a lot of potential purchases because the email flows were too short. Again, it depends on how big you are as an e-commerce brand, but for this brand in particular, they could definitely have a few more emails. So we revamped their entire strategy, adding discounts, risk reversals, FOMO, urgency messaging. That was sorely lacking. But let me explain, why extending these flow automations is so important. So again, this brand simply just wasn't following up enough. So you can see here, like for a welcome flow example, yes, the open rate and click rate generally goes down the longer the flow goes on, because you're kicking out people that have made a purchase and you're just left with the people that haven't made a purchase yet or still in that, buying decision stage. But if you're still getting a lot of orders on the last email of your flow, that's a really clear sign that you can extend it. So look at your flows, look at the past 30 days. If you're still getting quite a substantial amount of buyers on this last email of your flow, there's a good chance you could extend it. So this is kind of what I mean. Like, you want to extend it to the point where you're still getting an okay open rate and click rate, so it's not damaging your email deliverability, but you're still getting at least a couple buyers on that last email. That's when you build it out to a pretty good length. So yeah, it is a bit of a fine balance. As the flow gets longer, you kick out the high intent customers out of the flow, because once they make a purchase in the welcome flow, for example, they'll be kicked out of the flow. But yeah, you want to build out the flow long enough that suits the amount of traffic and volume that your DTC e-commerce store is bringing in. So what are some of the advanced flow strategies we include? So things when we upgrade and revamp their email design, we include some FAQs, you're answering some common FAQs, showcasing their USPs a bit more or a bit clearer. Especially in the abandoned checkout flows, we included all the pay in full options that they have, especially with the average buyer these days. A lot of people are on Afterpay, Apple Pay, things like that. We want to show the pay in full options. We included a free shipping offer in the abandonment flows, so we actually split people up based on their cart value, and if it was over the threshold for free shipping, which is usually like $100, we said that in the email, like, hey, you got free shipping. There's also like a low stock FOMO alert trick that we do. I've got another video on that on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. We delayed the discount in the abandoned checkout later in the flow to save margin because, before this store was giving away the extra 10% off, 20% off in like the second email. And that is personally just way too early. You can really save yourself a lot of margin by not giving away the extra discount straight away. Usually you want to keep it until like 3 or 4 emails in. And then, another good trick was on the welcome flow. After you give the last chance email on the original offer that you give away, so in this case, it's just 10% off, we actually came back 5 days later. So we put in a 5-day delay on the very end of the welcome flow, came back in with 2 more emails and upgraded the offer to 15% off just to get any stragglers that still haven't made a purchase yet because maybe the 10% off wasn't enough. But you want to be really clear here, like, hey, this is our best offer to make you get you to have your first purchase. And another thing you can include on all of the flows is plain text emails from the founder. Usually I keep this as the very, very last email on the flow, kind of like a last-ditch effort. But yeah, you really want to be genuine. Make it sound human, make it sound like, hey, I'm just reaching out to let you know that you forgot your thing, or you forgot your first discount code that we give away and it's expiring tomorrow. You just want to make it sound really, really genuine. Of course, if you want to get the advanced strategies that we implemented for this brand and the full layout, of course, there is a link in the description and you can book in a free audit call where we'll scope you up a free 90-day action plan as well. Amplifying their campaign strategy. So again, some things to know is like consistent weekly campaigns make up the other half of your email marketing revenue. This is important because if you actually become inconsistent with your weekly campaigns, which this previous freelancer was doing, you are effectively leaving money on the table. New prospects entering your top of funnel need to be nurtured into their first purchase and then into a returning customer. So similarly to the flows, a constant flow of valuable content accelerates the sales cycle of all these new prospects and people coming to your brand from paid media. So for this brand in particular, we're actually sending like 4 to 5 emails per week. Now this was ranging in between different segments, and this was a mix of like graphic and genuine, founder plain text styled emails. And the results, the results speak for themselves. A lot of people may think that's a lot of emails, but again, this was a huge, huge email list, and we had plenty of ways to segment it down. The results, we generated 312 grand over this 5-month period from when we started. And again, this is a consistent stream of value-based and nurturing content without actually relying on discounts. Of course, we had this Easter Day sale here, but even on these other months as well. So what did we do? Like I said, we stayed very consistent with our scheduling. We created custom email designs, that follow the best industry practices and were visually pleasing to read and interact with. Here's a few good examples. But you can all see like there's a big trend. Like we have a button above the fold. We actually have, I don't show it here, but a collection footer down the bottom, which is just a set of clear buttons linking people to different collections that they may be interested in. Very big, bold, short, readable headers, concise and punchy copywriting. You see here, we're not doing any super long paragraphs. We're breaking it up and being it super easy to read and skimmable. Because again, if people are reading this on mobile quickly, we want them to be able to read it nice and easily. Another thing we've been seeing work well, especially for this brand, is pricing strike-throughs. So things like that, showing the clear, value or price drop in these designs has worked really, really well. Yeah, this is some of the real-time results of non-promo emails, so non-discount emails. You can see we're ranging between 4 to 1 to 2 to 3 up to $7,000 here. Again, lots of different campaign angles. Mythbuster emails, benefits of XYZ product, us versus them comparison, going over international holidays, customer reviews, customer transformation, story highlights, and much, much, much more. And in case you're wondering about kind of like the schedule, this wasn't our exact schedule, but this is a pretty good one just to, base yourself off. I would, have a lot of like, value first. Most of your emails be value first. Maybe like a sales focused email, maybe like, and when I say sales focused email, I mean like, I don't know, talking about a specific product or showing off a price drop, things like that. Just sprinkling in a mix of that. And then, usually once per month or once every 2 months, have a sale. And usually with that strategy, you want to have a sale teaser, like a hype email, the big launch email, resend that launch email, last chance messaging, final last chance, and then back to your schedule. This is a really basic schedule and campaign calendar that I would recommend following for most e-commerce brands. So after working with us, again, this brand was seeing consistent weekly email campaigns, a mix of sale and educational content tailored to the audience. But more importantly, especially this brand, they have a lot of things going on. But we were able to take email marketing completely off their hands. I actually just did an interview with this client, and he said that, he spends no more than 15 minutes per week just reviewing the campaigns. Most of them, like 9 times out of 10, they're all ready to go. There's maybe like 1 or 2 fix-ups, but that's about it. So this frees up their time essentially to work on bigger levers inside their business. For this brand in particular, they're actually launching 140 new products in the next couple of months. So that's what I mean. Like they can work on building the business, launching new products, better photo shoots, better content, things that, they pretty much don't have to worry about email marketing anymore. But more importantly, this created a reliable, consistent, and profitable marketing channel for their store. Bringing in around 200, 300K per month on average. So this is the results. You can see here, this is the email attributed revenue share. So we started working in March. Before us, they were around 20, 19%. March, we got them to 24%, 32%, 31, 39, 37, 34. And now we're averaging around 35% email attributed revenue. So huge, huge increase. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, this is my email. If you want to get in touch with me. And of course, if you are an e-commerce brand watching this and you're doing over 100K per month, that's usually the brands that we get the best results for the price that we charge. Feel free to book in a call below and we can map you out a full 90-day action plan and a Klaviyo audit and an ROI estimate from what you can pay us and what you can expect as a return from that. So that's up for grabs. Just the link below. And thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that was valuable, and cheers.